So, for now, let's move forward po muna. Now that we have an idea about what just transition is, our next resource speaker will then talk about nuclear energy technologies naman, what it is made of and what it would impose on the environment should it be included in the just transition plans. Please allow me to introduce and welcome an energy transition advisor from the Institute of Climate and Sustainable Cities or ICSC, Engineer Alberto Dalusong III. Makakalikasang araw po, Engineer Bert Dalusong.
Go straight ahead. Ang dami pong sinabi ng kaibigan kong si Jerry, ano? And I think you will find that my presentation supports what he said about nuclear. And in my case, what I'd like to do is to present what I call an evidence-based approach. Ang una ko pong pakikita yung electricity profiles ng mga kasama natin sa ASEAN, no? Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, kasama na po ang Pilipinas. Now, I just gave the organizers a copy of this presentation, so you will have all of the technical details from this presentation. But here is what I'd like to say. Unang-una, ang Pilipinas po, kumpara dyan sa Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, napakaliit ng power sector natin. At proportionally, ganyan po itsura. Maliit, yung Thailand, malaki pero napakalaki ng Vietnam at ng Indonesia. Ito po yung mga largest power plant unit, ano, sa atin po, Dinginin, 668 megawatts. Sa Myanmar, yung sa Thailand, galing sa Myanmar, 1220 megawatts. Sa Vietnam, over 1,000. Indonesia, 850. Mas po yung mga capacity natin at Indonesia kasi archipelago tayo. Medyo hiwa-hiwalay na islands, hindi isang contiguous area gaya ng Thailand at Vietnam. Now, ang tanong ko, nakikita nyo ba na may nuclear sa ibang bansa na mas malaki ang power system kesa sa atin? Wala po. Wala. And this is my first series of takeaways. Una-una, we have the smallest, by far, the smallest power network. And today, yung pong commercial nuclear capacity, I believe, starts at around 1,000 megawatts to 2,000 megawatts. So ang largest unit natin, 700 sa Luzon, 150 sa Visayas at Mindanao. Napakalaki ng minimum size ng nuclear para sa atin. Pagtaas po pag meron tayong malaking planta, mataas din yung reserve requirements. And therefore, tataas din yung ating ancillary service charges sa transmission system. So napakalaki yung nuclear sa grid natin. At ang tanong ko, ang tagal nang may pinapag-usapan ng nuclear sa Indonesia, ba't hanggang ngayon wala pa silang nuclear? No? Now, pinaka-importante ko pong sasabihin ito. We have an overcapacity of baseload power plants today. Ulitin ko po, overcapacity po ang ating baseload power plants today. Ba't pa natin dadagdagan? Paliwanag ko po ano. Tingnan po natin ng Luzon. Ito po yung actual average hourly load per quarter from October 2024 to September 2025, no? Gusto ko po parate pag nagpapaliwanag ako, may data to support eh. So ito po, pinakamataas ang demand natin April to June 2025 kasi nandyan yung summer months, no? Tingnan mo yung existing coal power plants natin, 8,588.7, no? Tingnan mo, zoom ko, yan, coal. 8,588.7. Tingnan natin yung base load. Saan yung base load dyan? Di ba dapat around 8,000? Tagpas na po yung coal capacity sa base load requirement natin dahil dapat nandun lang siya sa ilalim eh. Tingnan po natin yung gas. And what I did was, I got the total gas, 4,123.8. I removed yung Avion kasi ano siya eh, open cycle gas turbine siya, hindi siya baseload. Tinanggal ko yung hindi baseload, 4,035.1 megawatts. No? And made bagong dalawang unit, EERI units 1 and 2 dito sa total na to. Now, ito po, yung pong black arrow, yan po yung ating capacity. Di ba napakataas niya kumpara doon sa peak natin, average peak, at kumpara sa actual baseload requirement around 8,000 megawatts. Now, tingnan po natin yung operasyon ng mga bagong planta natin. Ano? By the way, umaanda na po yung third unit ng EERI. So actually, plus 420 megawatts. Lagpas 13,000 megawatts na yung baseload natin sa Luzon. No? Tingnan niyo po kung you know, we have a very transparent power system. Nada-download po yung data na to, yung mga pinapakita ko sa inyo sa IMAP website. Kaya nakikita natin, yung gas power plant na yan, baseload yan, taas, baba, araw-araw, taas, baba, ganyan. Tapos nagsisiro, ibig sabihin, ano po ang ibig sabihin nun? Forced outages. Nasisira, humihinto. Dapat paandarin ulit. Now, ang overcapacity po, isipin nyo, overcapacity di sobra, hindi po. Ang nangyayari, because of the overcapacity, they operate in the way that I showed. They harm their equipment and it leads to forced outages. This is the root cause of the red and yellow alerts. In other words, yung pong red and yellow alert natin tuwing summer, hindi po dahil kakulangan, kasobrahan ng baseload, na mali ang operasyon. Tingnan po natin, sabi mo, Ebert, pinili mo lang yung isang bagong gas plant. I chose the four types of plants. Una-una, on the top left, Dinginin, yung pinakamalaki. Ano lang po yan, 2021 lang yung Unit 1, 2022 yung Unit 2. O tingnan natin yung Suwal. Tingnan natin yung suppliers ng Meralco, Quezon Power, San Buenaventura, supercritical cold out. Di ba walang dire-diretsong andar yan? Lahat sila up and down every day, ang daming force outages. Yan ang dahilan kung ba't nagkakaroon tayo ng power supply problems during the peak months. Hindi po dahil, ay, tumaas yung requirement. Every year, alam mo na nga, pinakita ko na nga sa inyo. Every year, the highest peaks are recorded in the second quarter. Alam na natin yun. Hindi po doon. Kaya po, nagkakaroon ng red and yellow alert dahil sobra na ang baseload natin. Sobra na po. Now, sabihin mo, Bert, ba't sila nagdadagdag kung masisira naman? Iba po yan. Contracting po yan. Ang kontrata nila is not dependent on delivery of power. It is dependent on capacity that is contracted. That's a whole nother matter. Maybe we can do a deep dive if you like. Pero yan po ang totoo. Kahit na ganyan ang operasyon, ang laki ng kita dahil the kontrata is based on capacity, not energy delivery. Now, sabi ni yung ano natin, kaibigan natin, si Jerry, mahal daw yung nuclear. Ano bang sabi ng US Energy Information Administration Annual Energy Outlook 2025? Ang sabi po, sa mga dispatchable technologies daw, yung advanced nuclear at biomass ang pinakamatataas. And nakita nyo may simple average $81.45 per megawatt hour. Pero walang capacity weighted average. Ano ibig sabihin niya? Technologies with no additions in 2030 do not have capacity weighted average. Ibig sabihin sa US, wala naman tinatayong bagong advanced nuclear sa US. Bakit dito parang gusto natin tayo na guinea pig para sa US sa advanced nuclear na yan, ano? So nagtanong po ako sa AI, so AI on nuclear cost. Magkano pa yung nuclear cost? Sabi niya, if in the Philippines, there are certain difficulties. One, there is no country-specific, non-first-of-a-kind study. Meron daw ginagawa yung Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power Incorporated na feasibility study, pero wala pang resulta. Cost sa atin would be higher than, say, what the South Koreans built in UAE, Baraka project, due to seismic upgrades, lack of existing infra, regulatory development. So in other words, wag po natin ikumpara yung cost sa ibang bansa na yan din magiging cost natin. Mas mahal ho sa atin dahil nga very prone to earthquakes. Mas mahal ang cost natin. So, ang sabi po ni AI, you want nuclear, you do a turnkey contract with an experienced vendor, South Korea or China, Russia. The only realistic path. Pag kausap natin, Western countries, historically, yung cost nila is $8,000 per kilowatt. So in other words, 8 million per megawatt. No? Napakamahal. Doble pa, higit doble pa. In fact, 4 times ng cost ng coal power plant, no? And finally, financing will terms matter enormously dahil nga ang laki ng capex mo, no? Pag wala kang cheap source of finance, di lalong yung effective cost of power napakataas. Sa US po, pag kinokompara nyo, ay, ang cost pala sa US is like 6 pesos per kilowatt hour ng nuclear. Sa US po yun. Dahil ang kanilang discount rate na ginagamit for power projects is around 7%. Sa Pilipinas po, based on ERC approvals, 12 to 15% discount rate ang atin. Pag in-apply mo yun, lagpas doble pa. Kung 6 sa US, lagpas doble dito sa atin dahil we have a higher discount rate, mas maliit yung ating mga planta. So, key takeaway, nuclear will be more expensive in the Philippines. More expensive than coal, mataas na yung coal, nuclear will be more expensive because of our higher discount rates and mas maliliit nga yung mga sizes natin. Tsaka wala tayong experience sa nuclear. Yan bang nuclear, growing yan worldwide? Ano ba yan? Para bang solar yan na mabilis ang growth worldwide? Well, tingnan po natin. According to our world in data, after rapid growth in the 70s to 90s, growth has slowed down significantly in the last 20 years. Kita nyo yung taas world, oh. Tingnan nyo yung Europe, pababa. US stagnant. Ang pataas lang, China sa nuclear. Pataas China. Tingnan po natin yung power mix ng China. Yung nuclear po dyan, green. Yung hydropower, blue. Wind, dark blue. Solar is like light orange. Tingnan po natin. Clearly, solar, wind, and hydro are all bigger and growing faster than nuclear in China. Remember, China is the only one with the rising nuclear generation. So, small modular reactors. Parati po natin naririnig yan. Small modular reactors. So, ito po yan. Small power, hindi ko na po babasahin. Ano po yung reality nitong small modular reactors? There are only 2 grid-connected commercial SMR. Isa po sa China, isa sa Russia. Only 2 connected commercial SMRs. Sorry. So, yung Japan has a test reactor. They started in 2024 but it's not for commercial power generation. Testing pa lang sa Japan. 7 SMR designs are either operating or under construction globally per the OECD Nuclear Energy Agency, but the others are still in build phases. So in other words, under construction, may operating pero hindi commercial. Hindi parang bibili tayo ng, say, coal power plant. Alam natin, we can buy a proper coal power plant. Our problem with coal is the cost and the impact on our climate, no? And finally, there are no SMRs operational in the US, Europe, or elsewhere, no? And narinig po natin, NuScale, GE, Hitachi, o yan. They think they can deploy in 2029, 2030. They think, but they have not. In fact, if I monitor NuScale in the web, they just suffered a recent delay. Now, so ano po yung nuclear? Ano po yung aking summary ng nuclear? It is too big. Yung commercial nuclear capacity is too big. 1,000 megawatt unit size, napakalaki po kahit sa Luzon. It is not needed kasi nga overcapacity na tayo ng baseload. Magsisiksikan sila sa dispatch pag dinagdag mo pa yung nuclear. Declining or stagnant in traditional markets in Europe and United States. Have we heard this from those promoting nuclear na hindi growing technology yan? Hindi naman technology that is getting improved and implemented. Puro siya getting improved in the research. Yan po ang nuclear. Expensive. It will take much longer to develop. Typically over 10 years from planning to operation. Ano na po yan? Conservative. conservative na, mabilis na yung 10 years. Napakatagal maggawa ng nuclear power plant. Remember, sa nuclear po, everyone, kahit welder, everyone that works in the nuclear power plant will have to have international certification to do so. Hindi po pwedeng yung ating local certifications lang. And finally, the nuclear proponent is banking on SMRs to lead market development, but it is too early to depend on the technology with few commercial operating example. In other words, gagawin lang, sasampulan lang tayo, eh di napakamahal yun. Finally po, if we look at it, nuclear, ang gandang storya, but it falls apart with a little fact-checking. So with that, I end my presentation. I'm happy to interact with the participants later kung may mga tanong. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat po. Yan. Tungkol sa topic natin sa nuclear energy. Thank you very much, Engineer Dalosong. At siyempre, we have seen comments and feedbacks from the Department of Energy. But later on, I'm sure we will hear more from them and also during the Q&A. For now, let's us proceed to our next speaker because I'm sure we are very excited to ask questions at the end and hear also from our reactors. Our next speaker will provide us naman with knowledge on the waste to energy or WTE technology and whether it should be considered in just transition efforts. We welcome the chairperson of Mother Earth Foundation. Please welcome Ms. Sonia Mendoza. Makalikasang araw po, Ms. Sonia.
Isang makalikasang araw din sa ating lahat. I would like to request for the organizer to share my screen. Ayan. Maraming salamat. Okay, next slide, please. Waste to energy can it be included? No, a short description of Mother Earth. We are an unstock nonprofit NGO actively engaged in addressing waste and toxic pollution, climate change, and other health and environmental justice issues. It's best known for its community-based advocacy of zero waste. Next slide, please. Waste to energy. You have heard it refers to a series of processes designed to convert waste materials into usable forms of energy, typically electricity or heat. Well, there are two kinds of waste to energy. One uses biological processes or non-burn. This is the biogas or biodigesters. We have one here in our Barangay Dampalit in Malabon, and we have the mechanical biological anaerobic digesters. Next slide, please. Now, just for anaerobic digestion, organic waste is broken down in an airtight vessel, produces methane-rich biogas, which can be burned on site for heat or to generate electricity. This practice is well suited for densely populated areas that generate lots of organic waste, but have little room for composting. Although it requires technical training and can be costly, but cheaper small-scale anaerobic digestion units have also been successful in countries including Bangladesh, China, and India, where they have a majority of waste, organic waste. So you know already the hierarchy of waste solutions. The least preferred is landfill and incineration. Next slide, please. So the other kind of WTE is the one that uses thermal heat processes, burn, or they call it WTE incineration. Well, this is combustion-based WTEs, direct burning of waste with enough air, or gasification, limited amounts of air, and pyrolysis, no addition of air. But sabi nga ni Dr. Emmanuel, hindi pwedeng walang oxygen, no? Or air, because the waste itself that's going to get burned, to be burned, has oxygen or air. Next slide, please. So there is still combustion. So waste to energy incinerators contribute to climate change. And I'm glad the first speaker said na hindi natin kailangan yung waste to energy. So from here on, if I say waste to energy, is the thermal waste to energy, which is waste to energy incineration. Incinerators emit more carbon dioxide per megawatt hour than coal-fired, natural gas-fired, or oil-fired power plants. Incinerating materials such as wood, paper, yard debris, and food discards is far from climate neutral. Rather, incinerating these and other materials is detrimental to the climate. And according to the US EPA, waste to energy incinerators and landfills contribute far higher levels of greenhouse gas emissions and overall energy throughout their life cycles than source reduction, reuse, and recycling of the same materials. Incineration also drives a climate changing cycle of new resources pulled out of the earth. Sinunog na nga eh. So you have to mine again, processed in factories, shipped around the world, and then wasted in incinerators and landfills. So in Denmark, the poster child of Europe's incinerator industry recently discovered that its incinerators were releasing twice the amount of carbon dioxide than they originally estimated, and had probably been doing so for years. This caused Denmark to miss its Kyoto Protocol greenhouse gas reduction targets. Next slide, please. So these thermal WTE facilities worsen the climate crisis. These emit high volumes of direct and indirect greenhouse gases. Studies show that WTE facilities emit 1.7 times more total greenhouse gases per megawatt hour generated than coal-fired plants. They produce 2.5 times and 4.2 times more total carbon dioxide than oil-fired and natural gas-fired power plants, respectively. Thus far from contributing to ecological balance, these facilities actually accelerate climate change. Because they worsen climate change and impact the transition to a circular economy, the EU, or the European Union Technical Expert Group on Sustainable Finance, has excluded thermal WTEs from activities considered as sustainable finance because WTEs run counter to our country's effort also to mitigate climate change. Next slide, please. And far from dealing with the waste problem sustainably, thermal WTE facilities actually disincentivize real sustainable solutions such as rethink, redesign, waste reduction, recycling, and upcycling. Some classify WTE facilities as renewable energy. They take away important fiscal incentives from real energy solutions, which are absolutely necessary to deal with the worst impacts of climate change. So summing it up, thermal waste-to-energy technologies and facilities legitimize continued extraction from the environment and unsustainable consumerism, while at the same time directly contributing to climate change, polluting the environment, and threatening human health. Yes, next slide, please. The EU institutions have made, this one is important, incineration not eligible for any funding in all latest definitions for grants due to the do not significantly harm, or DNSH, regarding the circular economy and climate policy. For example, the Just Transition Funds, the EU taxonomy of sustainable finance, and recovery funds. And I hope our government will at least read about this because they keep on pushing the thermal waste to energy incineration. Next slide, please. So, that's about the climate change, the effect on climate of the thermal WTE facilities. These facilities also simply transform the garbage problem into a more persistent environmental and health problem. WTE facilities merely transform the waste into other forms of wastes, such as carbon monoxide, dioxins, and furans, polynuclear aromatic hydrocarbons, nitrogen oxides, carbon dioxide, methane, volatile organic compounds, aldehydes, particulate matter, and heavy metals such as mercury, lead, and cadmium, all toxic. Next slide, please. These products are more harmful toxins than the original waste and gravely worsen air and water pollution. Dioxins, you all know, are among the most toxic substances known to science. So there is no minimum standard for this. Those exceeding internationally accepted standards. Well, our regulations require testing for only 6 to 8 hours, once or twice a year. But scientific studies in the last 2 decades show that brief periodic tests are not sufficient to catch high episodic dioxin emissions, which can be 40 times and as high as 1,000 times above emission limits during transient conditions. For example, in the cement kilns, they only test dioxins once a year. But during the startup, there is already dioxin emissions from burning plastic waste and organic waste. So we have to have continuous monitoring of dioxins. It has to be emission monitoring system, should be a SEMS, continuous emission monitoring system, to protect our health. Next slide, please. Well, we know that dioxins are persistent pollutants that remain in the environment for generations and accumulate in the food chain. It causes cancer, male and female reproductive effects, spontaneous abortions, developmental effects on children, diabetes, neurotoxicity, and immunotoxicity. Also, these thermal WTE facilities actually encourage greater waste generation. And also because of the ash that it produces, it will need engineered hazardous sanitary landfill, which is more expensive than an ordinary landfill. It will not reduce the need for sanitary landfills because they say WTE will reduce the use of sanitary landfills. This is far from the truth. You need more landfills because of the ash that will be produced. And next slide, please. Then it will be a financial burden to Filipinos. It was already mentioned that WTE facilities are very expensive. Now, the city government of Cebu entered into a joint venture with a Chinese-backed incinerator last October 22. Then, in the contract, was stipulated that the city will be locked in for 40 years in a put or pay garbage contract because you have to deliver the volume of waste in the contract at a cost more than twice of the current expenditure of the city for its solid waste management costs. So it's really, it will be a burden because it will, the, the, the fees, the tipping fees will be much higher, and this will be paid by the taxes of the people. Next slide, please. Well, in Dumaguete, the former mayor was able to put up against the opposition of the residents a pyrolysis there that melts plastic. But then it was shut down by the DNR because of ECC violations. But the DNR did not say that it was also shut down because of the findings of the community volunteers who, who measured the air quality when this facility was operating. The particulate matter were much too high for human health and safety. The particulate PM 2.5 and 10, too much, or too high for human health and safety. So it was good that this facility was shut down, but I hope it will not be operational again, even if they get their ECC. Next slide, please. So it has already been shown that WTE facilities produce very small amounts of energy. It has very low efficiency levels of 19 to 27%. In Europe, it contributed less than 1.5% to the European Union's total energy consumption. They cannot be relied upon to help solve our country's energy crisis. At sabi nga kanina, wala naman, sobra pa nga yung ating, may overload pa tayo, no? And they are not self-sufficient and depend on local governments to support them through high tipping fees. So it's a burden again to the taxpayers. Next slide, please. So this is the WTE facilities exacerbate the waste problem. They have often been dubbed as renewable solutions, but renewable energy is energy derived from natural processes that do not deplete, such as wind, wave, or solar energy. Next slide, please. Now, even if they say it's high-tech and clean, there are also many instances that have been proven to be failures. Take, for example, the state of the art in Kaunas, Lithuania. It showed that only half a year of operation, 83% of chicken eggs sampled within a 3-kilometer radius already exceeded the EU limit for dioxins in eggs. Because dioxin deposits in the fatty parts of the body, and eggs is fat, so dioxin is easily deposited in chicken eggs, and that's the easier way to test the presence of dioxins. Now, the one they say in Harlingen, Netherlands, due to transient episodic emissions, the dioxin levels were found as far as 10 kilometers away. And in subsurface salts for 250 to 1,000 years. It will threaten dioxin releases from waste-to-energy facilities will threaten human health and the environment for generations to come. Next, please. Now, a recent one in France. In 2023, the French health authorities warned advising residents in the entire Ile de la Cité or the Ile-de-France region which includes Paris and its urban area, not to consume eggs from backyard chickens due to significant contamination by dioxins and PFAS, also known as the forever chemicals. The warning came after studies confirmed that soil and eggs in domestic chicken coops near the largest waste incinerator in Europe, located in Paris, are contaminated by persistent organic pollutants such as dioxins and furans. Next, please. This was, as a side, this incinerator was the one that was visited by then Secretary Gina Lopez. She told us in a meeting that the air inside the facility was not good. But outside, you cannot smell anything. But and even the Microsoft office in France, in Paris, was there. But recently, in 2023, there were already dioxin emissions because they tested, they prohibited eating the eggs within the area of the whole city. This one is a waste to energy facility. Next, please. Now, here in the Philippines, because of the clamor of government, even the DNR and all the government agencies for waste to energy facilities, of course, the NGOs are opposing it. They had already mobilized their opposition. There is a Manila Anti-Incinerator Alliance because they plan to put it in the Smoky Mountain area. And I hope, but the mayor of Manila is bent on building the waste to energy facility. Next, please. So can it be included in the Philippine Just Transition Plan? Next slide, please. Well, thermal waste to energy incineration, pyrolysis, gasification is carbon intensive, expensive, and inconsistent with RA 9003 and Just Transition Principles. Well, Dumaguete's halted pyrolysis project demonstrates the technical and social risks of thermal waste to energy. But the Philippine Just Transition Plan should adopt biological processes, zero burn framework for organics and residuals management. Yeah. Thank you very much. Now, my source is the Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives and Dr. Jorge Emmanuel. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Miss Sonia Mendoza. Just the fact po no, na na-mention po ninyo na WTE incinerators contribute to climate change with how much greenhouse gases they emit is enough statement in itself po to understand why it is questionable to welcome it in the just transition plans. No? So thank you po once again, Miss Sonia, for enlightening us vastly with WTE's implications in our sustainability efforts and even our health. Health, of course, is a huge factor when we talk about anything that has to do with waste. All right?